Fear is being used as a weapon by climate activists. Currently, there is a very loud narrative that climate change is a crisis that can only be solved with renewables and decarbonization. But, like most things, it's more complicated than that. As in too many assumed crises, the government has put its hand on the scales, just as it did leading up to the 2008 housing crisis and after. Of course, it's no surprise corporations and executives will profit at others' expense. And at whose expense is this particular narrative being pushed? Sadly, the poor. It's time to tell the truth, for all of humanity and even the planet we inhabit. Fossil fuels are massively necessary. They're used in clothing, medical supplies, medicines, and construction materials for all energy sources. Even so-called renewable energy technologies, such as wind and solar, are not clean. And they require equipment and materials created from industrial processes reliant on fossil fuels. On top of that, it is impossible to expect every American family to exchange their traditional fossil fuel products like cars and gas stoves for a more expensive alternative, especially because already 53% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. This change would force more Americans than ever to rely on government assistance. The wealthy are not bearing the brunt of the war on fossil fuels. Instead, child laborers in Africa and working American families are. The current administration is not just assisting electric vehicle buyers. They are propping up the entire EV market by paying buyers to create demand so that suppliers will have the profitability necessary to make the product. There isn't a natural widespread demand for EVs. So policymakers are using the popularized ESG narrative to ban the alternatives, fossil fuels. So what happens when the government meddles with supply and demand? We got a glimpse of this before, in the housing bubble, where the government tipped the scales. Eventually, the bubble burst, and the very people who were claimed to be the beneficiaries of a government-led solution lost their homes and the dreams they had been peddled. Let's call this reverse market engineering, and here's how it's affecting you. Reverse market engineering creates financial market conditions that artificially enhance liquidity, making the product more financially viable at an earlier point in time than normal market demand would have permitted. Subsidies ultimately add an additional tax on the middle class. On the flip side, if you let markets thrive and run their course, products and ideas can compete, grow, and shift. If you force a market to operate in reverse, the winner has already been chosen. Now, those bearing the brunt deserve the truth about the costs they will pay. If you'd like to learn more about this topic, head to lifepowered.org/shininglight.